So music's been around for quite a while, and there's like what 7 notes, A through F,
There are 12
12 notes, yeah,
in Western music.
in Western music. So in that arrangement, you can only make a certain number of combinations, just like letters of an alphabet. Are we going to run out of music?
See, I'm not even sure that we're going to run out of combinations. And I know that there was this thing where an AI uploaded every possible combination of notes. But I know for a fact that that's just like a bad headline. You know why? Because you can say you have 4 notes in the bass and 4 notes on top, right, the soprano. Or maybe say you have 4 notes in the bass and 8 notes in the soprano, like as a toy example, right? I was looking at a Chopin nocturne, right? And it just begins with it. Maybe we can even like link to it in the description. He has all of these measures that are uneven, right? So it's just a normal bass line, and then he has like 19 against 8, and you can't count it, and it's not even countable. So I think that no, it's not even obvious that there are a limited arrangement, a limited number of possible combinations, right? But then also, the other thing to note is that, do you think that the Baroque composers would have thought about like bebop jazz? They didn't have the framework to appreciate the sets of notes that the bebop composers would have, or improvisers, would have come up with. And actually, they couldn't even have composed something that the bebop composers could have improvised because they didn't have the framework. And I think that we don't know how many frameworks there are, how many, ways to organize sound there are. I'm optimistic. I think that it's potentially infinite.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Stephen Fry that made kind of a similar argument with words, like words in a language, how we have like a finite number of words that are usable, but you can arrange them and make something completely different. Like you could say, a blind duck eating an apple inside of an aardvark. That sentence has never been uttered before in history. I'm almost 100% sure, and that's a new thing that is now in your head. Another question would be: it could be, even if it is finite, the scope of the length would be so mind-bogglingly long that it wouldn't even be within our lifetime. If we compose, 1,000 songs a day for like 10,000 years and still not run out, it would not be noticeable. It's like the sun's going to burn out in 10 billion years because it's getting closer to the black hole somewhere.
So when I say infinite, I mean infinite, not just inexhaustible, right? And I think that the pessimist is going to say, well, yeah, logically you can always add one more note, so it's trivial that you have infinitely many possibilities, but they'll say, but you don't have infinitely many musical possibilities. And I think that's definitely premature because we don't know what the frame. I guess I'm struggling for a better word than a framework, but the frameworks of the future will be. And I think that is, it could very well be that there are infinitely many. I mean, there's also like we could, Western music has 12 notes, and they're all equally distant from another, right? And I don't think that was always true. I mean, that comes from J.S. Bach. So, but even if we stick within those parameters, I believe it's infinite. And I think that's a good thing.
And I suppose you could even argue that if you take the notes up even an octave higher to where the human range can't even see it, it's like we can actually make more notes that we can't really listen to, but can still be part of the structure.
Well, I mean, that's not really going to help you if you're, trying to say that that music will always be interesting, right?
But let's say, what I mean, like, let's say in a million years, we develop a different range of hearing that we can understand.
Yeah, I think that's an important point too, because it won't only be the sound that we organize, but the way that we appreciate the sound. Yeah. And it's interesting to note that Bach had contemporaries who thought that his chord changes were just weird and unlistenable.
It's just, well, it's like any art. It's gonna change with where it's at. It's like we find music enjoyable for certain reasons, just like we hear birdsong as an enjoyable chirping, but to another bird, it just sounds like horny noises. You know, to a worm, it sounds like death is coming from above.
That's an important point too, and I mean, this is actually a key part of, I mean, not just my philosophical thinking, but a lot of philosophical thinking of like, well, where do we fit into all of this, right? Where does the agent think into all of this? So yeah, I mean, I think, okay, if your dad says, well, we're running out of notes, you got to show him the Chopin nocturne, show him where it's not even possible to start counting.
Just right, very good.